Supervisors to order. Are you gonna, which one's gonna do the roll call? Tamar, will you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Supervisor Giomi.
Here.
Supervisor White.
Here.
Supervisor Horton.
Here.
Supervisor Shute.
Here.
Mayor Bagwell.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. Well, Emily, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Sure. Right? Let's do it.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Emily. Okay, we're on opening public comment. Do we have any public comment? No? No? Okay. After you want the final public comment. Okay, we'll go with that. We'll now move on to agenda item 5A, which is discussion and possible action regarding the canvass of the vote for the 2024 general election that was held on November 5th. Mr. Hohen, would you give us the highlights?
I will. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, Board of Supervisors. In this packet is the first 6 pages is a document that I want to share with you guys to go over some of the highlights of the election, just to kind of clue you into what happened. But when it comes to us transmitting the document to the Secretary of State, basically it's page 1, page 2, and then the summary and the precinct information. So if we go to page 2, let's just talk about the specifics that affect ballot count. Emily is with me today, and we're going to kind of play tag team back and forth. So if you have any questions, please ask. Number 1, 3 voters have been accounted for as fleeing voters. Our election workers do a good job trying to catch those people before they leave to make sure they cast their vote. But election systems and software, ES&S equipment that we have a ballot marking device. We have a device that they put their ballot in and they make their selection and it prints out the card. A lot of times people think that they're done just by printing out that card, that machine casts their vote, and it doesn't. They have to walk over and put it actually in the tabulator to be cast. So we have a narrow exit. We just try to catch people and flag people.
No, that was a good word. We tried to tackle you.
It just,
Give me that.
ultimately, we had 3, and we didn't want 3, but we had 3. Number 2, 8 ballots were rejected due to identifying marks. A lot of times people will want to sign their ballot. That's just an automatic rejection. So the counting board, when they separate the ballot from the envelope, they catch those and we put them in a separate pile and we keep track of those and log those as rejected ballots. So those ballots didn't count. They got credit for voting history, but they didn't get credit for the actual casting of the vote.
Exactly. So because we separate the ballot from the envelope, we don't know who those individuals are. So they will get credit for submitting their ballot. It just doesn't get counted in the final count.
Number 3, 8 ballots cast for the jail. I'll let you talk about that. Last legislative cycle, they passed some legislation that allows us to get closer to the jail, to get the people that are in jail, drunk driving, a drug charge. They're not convicted felons, but allows them to vote.
We're really lucky in Carson City. We have a really good relationship with the sheriff's office. I work really closely with a guy named Uriel. He and I pretty much facilitate all jail voting with the help of other people, of course. We had 13, I believe, people apply this time to try to vote in jail. Out of those, only 8 were actually counted because they didn't have the proper documentation required during this time. But it is slowly creeping up as the years go by.
Item number 4, 141 ballots cast via nves.gov. If you flip to page 4, if you go to page 4, and at the bottom of page 4, we have a little section there called NVEs. NVE stands for Nevada Effective Absentee System for Elections. People can vote online if they have certain qualifying conditions: tribal, disability, military, live overseas. And that's the breakdown in terms of people that voted for Carson City. So surprisingly, we got a lot of mail, priority mail, just to make sure the postmark gets done right from overseas people, as well as the NVE system. But 77 people voted that live overseas. Go ahead.
And this is the most that Carson City has ever seen in ease before. So it's also growing in popularity.
A lot of the people that couldn't get out of their house, we recommend that they self-declare that they're just disabled and go vote online. So a lot of the children, the older parents, help them do that. So that was successful too. Number 5, 94 out of 227 signatures were not cured. That's based, when I looked at June primary, it was about half. This is about half. I just heard on the radio this morning, 23,000 ballots needed to be cured for the state, and 9,000 did not get cured. We had 94 that did not get cured. So the process we go through is when we get that mail ballot, we try to do signature verification as soon as we can. We can start counting ballots up to 15 days before Election Day. So all the more reason for someone to get a mail ballot in early so we can verify signatures. Because if we can't verify a signature, then we put out a letter as soon as possible to them, to have them come in, phone call, email, to try to cure that.
And that's before you ever open the ballot, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So the ballot doesn't get opened until the signature is verified? Or the ballot is proofed? If the signature doesn't verify,
That's exactly right. So those 94 that didn't get counted, we never opened that ballot whatsoever. And we'll keep those for a 22-month retention period when we're able to destroy this election. So we'll never know who they voted for.
right? Good, thank you.
Page 3, now we're just getting into some information for your knowledge. When you look at the top of page 3, that is our voter roll as of November 1st, and it changes obviously every day. We do daily maintenance on voter rolls, whether it be deceased voters, people that move, automatic voter registration from the DMV. Total ballots cast, 31,149. Your turnout was 78.4%. I did do some quick math last night. When you look at the D's and the R turnout, it's in the 86 to 84% area. If you look at the nonpartisan turnout, it's in the 60% area.
Right.
So when you think about it, 85, 86% of D's and R's voted in this election is pretty good. A lot of the nonpartisan voters that get registered by the DMV, they probably have no intention to vote, but they're just automatically registered. In-person voting, if you look at in-person voting, that number, 14,791 versus the total of 16,322 for mail and ease, a little bit more on the mail ballot and ease side. We expected it to become a little bit more popular because it's just easier to vote that way, but just information for you to know. Page 4, rejected ballots. We talked about the rejected ballots. 2 people, and it's not uncommon, husband, wife will put 2 ballots in one envelope trying to save postage for the city, and you got to reject it because you don't know which ballot went to what person. So it's just per NRS, we reject those ballots. And there's no way to cure it. Fleeing voters, we talked about. Signatures cured, we talked about it. Jail, we talked. Provisional, why don't you talk about provisional in the process there?
So the state of Nevada has something called same-day registration, and we've had that since 2020. It's most popular in presidential elections, especially the generals. We had a large turnout on Election Day. There was a wait, but we got everyone who wanted to vote and was allowed to vote their vote. Out of the 586 people who did come to same-day registration as new voters in Carson City, we accepted 551 of their votes. So 35 of them weren't accepted, and that would be because they didn't have the proper identification or they didn't have proof of residency. A few of them didn't also sign their ballot, so that's an automatic reject there as well.
And then
So how many people same day registered on Election Day?
it was a lot. Everybody waited to the last minute. We had a line.
It was definitely the majority out of the 586 people, which we would love to get the word out. We're open Early voting, we had no line during early voting, but on election day, expect a line almost always.
Actually, you're open all year long for registration. You know, you don't have to wait until election season.
Well, one of the things that we've already communicated to the Secretary of State was a lot of the voters that were in line were going to the Secretary of State website, registering, so they would show that, hey, I'm registered, but the problem is we have a blackout period from October 22.
Yeah, so for online, it's October 22. You can still register, but they aren't getting processed as often. But like you were saying earlier, Maurice, prior to October 8th, we don't have restrictions. We don't have to see a Nevada driver's license. We're not in the blackout period, which has a lot stricter rules than the other majority of the year.
And part of the process of working provisionals and cleaning up provisionals is making sure that they haven't voted into another county. So a lot of people move from Washoe to Carson or Lyon to Carson, and we got to make sure we check with the other county to make sure they didn't vote there where they were residing before they came here. So it's just,
So what happens if they did? The first vote stands and the other county rejects?
That's exactly what happens. When we had that, actually, we accepted someone's mail ballot here in Carson City, and then they went to same-day registration in Clark County and registered to vote and attempted to vote in Clark County.
And they said, sorry,
Yeah,
you
so
already did it in Carson.
exactly. They won't accept, the Carson City vote will stand, the Clark County vote will not.
And it's provisional until you cure them, correct?
Yeah, we get something called the multi-ballot cast report from the Secretary of State's office, and they're the ones doing the final check to make sure that only one person is registered in one area, and then that one vote counts.
So in those instances where, because I know you're accepting mail-in ballots through, what is it, the 12th, right, this year?
Ninth.
The 9th, sorry, the 9th.
Saturday.
Saturday, right. So 5 o'clock Saturday. So you really can't cure all of those until after that, right?
We literally cured them on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
we were
You
working.
do have to wait to that because
Yeah.
they could get a mail ballot in another county.
Exactly. Yeah, so we
Interesting.
finished counting ballots 2 days ago, and then we have to do the post lot. So we
Yeah.
are working literally down to the line.
and the post lot that she's talking about is we have to certify the equipment worked the way it was supposed to work. So we basically zero out the equipment, we run our test deck through, we know what the expected results are. We want to make sure we get the expected results to prove the machines were working properly. And we send that off to the Secretary of State. We were talking about postmark and how many days after the election. So November 5th, Election Day, we count mail ballots postmarked on or before the 5th to the 9th. So we picked up some ballots on Saturday, the 9th. We only got like 3. But this 4-day period, there was a ruling by the Nevada Supreme Court this year that said if you even get a mail ballot from the post office that's unpostmarked within 3 days, you count that. And we got 2 of those, actually. 2 ballots came in that 3-day period that were not postmarked that we got from the post office.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because the post office doesn't normally postmark prepaid envelopes like that, right? They don't normally mark it, do they?
Carson City, we're unique. So Carson City, the post office here, they are doing us a favor by giving us ballots sooner without sending them to the Reno Processing Center, which would then be scanned through a barcode and then postmarked with a Reno postmark. So we get it a day early, but by them going to the Reno post office, it then gets scanned, and then people can track their ballot through this tool called Ballot Tracks.
Oh.
So every once in a while you'll hear, hey, my ballot hasn't, I mailed my ballot in, but we haven't, you got to go to our website to check to see if we've received it.
So they're postmarking it by hand, essentially.
Yeah, and you're fortunate in Carson City, if you haven't met Danielle from the Carson City Post Office, the new postmaster, he went out of his way this year to make sure that our election mail was just at the highest priority, making sure we got everything postmarked right and everything, so.
So that probably explains why there was actually quite a bit of chatter on social media that their ballot was not in the ballot tracks.
They can't account for that.
I also think that the Secretary of State's office wasn't updating it as regularly as they should, because once it's accepted in our system, they're able to pull that information from our system and then update ballot tracks manually. So
Gotcha.
we had a little bit of issue with the Secretary of State just kind of catching up with us. I did have to send a few emails.
Adjudicated ballots, 790. Adjudicated ballots are a process where when we're counting mail ballots in our machine, they will kick out because of usually an overvote. Usually somebody votes for something, they vote yes and they meant no, so they scratch out the yes and they then highlight no. Those have to be reviewed by a bipartisan team, and we've gone to an electronic method of adjudication whereby the bipartisan team literally sits around in front of a TV and pulls up ballot after ballot, and they all unanimously agree on what the voter intent is and on to the next. And we went through 790 pretty fast.
We used to do it by a 4-party team to duplicate these, so 790 ballots, like without the computer, would take probably 14 hours. So we are saving quite a bit of time doing it electronically these days. It's actually a really cool thing to see too.
And everybody gets involved and everybody participates, and it was great that everybody comes up with a unanimous. I didn't have to step in once in terms of, are you sure, on your selection, so they all did a good job. Page 5, photo booth popcorn. If you went and voted in person, you saw our photo booth, you see our popcorn. This just goes to show you the popularity. We had 1,773 pictures taken. There's a gallery that I'll share with you guys in terms of all the different pictures. But of those 1,773, there's been 23,207 shares of those pictures already, so.
You
they
didn't
enjoyed
say
it.
how much popcorn. You didn't say how many bags
It was
of
a
popcorn.
lot.
We went through a lot of boxes. Yeah. Other notes down below, the Stewart tribal location was a hit. We had 453 people there, 72 mail ballots dropped off there. A lot of people went there because it was so busy at the community center, but the tribal council was pleased with our result there. They really wanted, it was one day, so we set up on Monday. They allowed us to change the locks on the gym. They allowed us to have our IT department secure the internet connection. So they allowed us to do everything that we needed to do, set up on Monday, ran it Tuesday, and then tear down on Wednesday. But it was a success. I think we'll probably do it for longer days next time, and obviously more equipment, more staff to make sure that works better. City Hall mail drop-off, surprisingly, 634 ballots. Everybody goes to the City Hall to pay their bill or property taxes, whatever, and it's just there. A lot of times people will go to the City Hall thinking that we're there and we're not, and you send them to the courthouse. So 634 people were able to take advantage of that. Carson Colony above Curry wasn't so successfit. 34 ballots. We'll probably have a conversation with the Secretary of State and the tribal liaison about probably not doing that one. It wasn't worth the time and energy spent. And then just a comment, one of the things that our election workers do all the time when first-time voters come in, it's really a celebration. So every day that I was there, it was a celebration. You heard it all the time. First-time voter, everybody's cheering, everybody's clapping, but it was young and old. It wasn't just the younger people.
Yeah, I helped a gentleman who had the day prior just gotten his citizenship. So he had all his paperwork. He was extremely proud to be there, and he was ready to get his vote in and counted. So it was really cool. We cheered for him, and we did have first-time voter stickers this time around too. So he got one of those. So it was really, really cool to be a part of.
And then the last bullet there, implementation of the state voter registration and election management system, what they call VREMS, the top-down voter registration system. Literally, the clerks in Nevada, the 16 out of 17 clerks, they're on the same platform. Clark is on the same company platform, but a different version. So 16 out of the 17 counties are on the same VREMS platform. We really implemented a brand-new top-down voter registration system within a 9-month period of time, 4 mock elections, working out through all the issues. And I think The election went smooth in terms of the check-in process. We've just got to clean up a lot in 2025, just the back end, the maintenance, the daily stuff we have to do.
For the short turnaround time we had for this new system that was forced upon our office, I think we did smashing. We learned so much every election season, whether it's a new system or not. There's learning is nonstop, but we'll definitely take what we learned this election, and in 26 it will be even better.
Page 6, this couldn't be done without your election team. So, if you, and maybe I'll give you guys a list of all of the election workers, but, first of all, the team, Emily and Nicole, literally Emily, we spent 20 hours on election day, nonstop. And the election process, that 2-week period of time, they're 12, 14-hour days. So Emily, Nicole, Mickey, Patty, and Pam, they're our Carson City employees, and they did a phenomenal job just pulling everything together. Can't say enough about that. Sylvia is on the marriage side, and she chimed in and helped out a lot with us after all the marriage appointments. But your team in Carson City, facility management with electrical and changing the locks at the community center, Parks and Recs, they had park rangers helping us with parking on election day, Public Works dropping off all of the materials to make sure that we set it up right. And then the community center, obviously we take it over for a 2-week period of time. Jennifer at Parks and Recs, they canceled the swim events on Tuesday, election day, which helped us out a lot in terms of parking. So, and then, go ahead.
It really feels like it takes a village to run elections as smoothly as we do here. So thank you to everyone that came in, who voted, anyone who helped us. Eric here at the community center is just a gem too. So we really couldn't do it with everyone's help.
And then our election workers, we had 64 people at the community center, 21 at Stewart, 3 at the Colony. And then what people don't see is the counting duplication in the adjudication board. As a side note, observers were out in force this election period. We probably had 10 observers at the community center. We probably had 6 in the hallway watching our counting duplication and adjudication process. A little out of control sometimes. We're going to try to figure out how we can enforce some of the rules about no talking, no cell phone. But they all mean well. We try to go out of our way to explain the process so they know what they're looking at. A lot of their training is, if you see something suspicious, write it down and call us. Well, they don't even know what they're looking at. So we're trying to do a better job explaining to the observers what they're going to see, what they do see, and then answer their questions when they have them.
We'll definitely be implementing more rules upon them. They were a little bit harder to handle than the voters this time around. We just, for as contentious of an election that it went so nicely, it went so smoothly, and the voters turned out, obviously, as you can tell, it was record numbers for Carson City, especially the first day of early voting. We had over 800 people come out. The first weekday, that Monday, we had 1,409 voters. Never in my 5 years of working in this office have I seen the turnout that we saw this election. So we're just grateful that everyone who wanted to vote came out and voted.
And lastly, the last page in your packet is for, precinct, so it's like page 121 of 121. I think it's precinct 998, so I want to explain what 998 is. So when you see precinct, with the 24 precincts that we have in Carson City, we have a 25th precinct, which is 998. So why don't you explain 998 to them?
So that precinct is for voters who have no fixed address. There is a few stipulations done through the state of Nevada that they have to comply with. They have to have a bank account in the state or car registration in the state. There's a few things, but we got 9 voters, and that's more than I've ever seen in the past either. That is just a federal ballot, so it only has the presidential race on it, and it doesn't have anything local on it.
So with that, that's your election. So you've got behind the blue page, you've got the summary of the election results, and behind the yellow page, you have all of the results by precinct. And I can put them in that spreadsheet to give you kind of a more comparison. But that's your election. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Great job. Is there any public comment before we take action? No? Okay, I'll accept a motion. Who wants to jump in there and,
I'll do it.
okay.
I move to certify the 2024 general election results as presented.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous? Okay, great. Well, it's super fantastic that it's done, I will say that. And a job well done by everyone. And you're right, it takes a village, right? Being on the other side of it, I don't mind just admitting how difficult it is on our side too, waiting for the ballot counts to drop, right? Because you're like, it's a long, long season from a filing period in March all the way, and it's not November 5th, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I actually have to go all the way, to 4 days after. You don't expect that too much curing would alter the results much, but still, it's a very long process. So I know it was for you guys too. So thank you for all your efforts.
Well, I'll remind people too that in the not too distant past, there was one race in Carson City. It was decided by 25 votes.
Yes.
And that was for this Board of Supervisors, and that was probably 12 years ago. So it just makes a
Matters.
difference. 25 votes is not a lot. So,
Well, and actually,
You only need
since
half.
Nevada has been a state, there's north of a dozen elections have ended in a tie.
yeah.
Amazing.
Just amazing it could be that many, but
Yeah.
there it is.
Okay, we'll move on then to a final public comment. Darcy, come on in. Cards, yeah.
Good morning, Mayor and Supervisors. I'm Darcy Johnson. I was one of the many volunteer workers. First, I want to reiterate what I told you the last time I spoke at the previous canvass in 2022, and that Emily's a rock star. She's just so competent and enthusiastic and hardworking, and she really kept everybody on task. Secondly, I want to shout out Miguel Camacho. You may know he used to be the Chief Elections Deputy before he left for the Secretary of State's office. On Election Day, the same-day registration table was buried. One of the guys that had been trained as a registrar called in sick. So we're talking a 3-hour wait. Miguel came in around midday, and I think he came in as part of his duties as Secretary of State's office. But he saw the line, and he sat down at the table and started registering voters. He saved our bacon. He really did. And he made the wait substantially shorter for a lot of voters. So I wanted to call him out. Lastly, I want to express a little concern about the way the clerk's office is staffed for elections. It is my understanding that Miguel's job as chief deputy has not been filled. I think we can all agree that election administration has not gotten easier over the last few elections. And it troubles me just a bit that the office is not fully staffed. It is my observation that Emily is essentially doing that chief deputy job, even though she's not been promoted nor is she compensated at that higher rate. This is, of course, a situation that many of us working women of a certain age have seen and experienced in our careers. I just would like to strongly encourage either the clerk or the board to address that issue and make it right. And we had a really good time running the elections. Election day was a very long day, but it was fun. Thank you.
Thank you for all your efforts, Darcy. Do I have any other public comment? Okay, with that, if there's no objection, we are adjourned, and congratulations, Ms. Schutte. Okay, thanks, we're adjourned. Ta-da!